Hi, and welcome back to Animals 2 by 2, where we take a week-long look at different animals. Today is day 2 of our study on snails. Lesson objectives and standards for the week. Like always, I want you to be thinking about these standards and objectives and be able to do certain things at the end of the week. This week, I want you to be able to observe the structures and behaviors of land snails in a terrarium, observe the structures and behavior of water snails in an aquarium, communicate your observations of the two kinds of snails, and compare the similarities and differences of the two kinds. What you'll need: book handouts you should have received on Monday, pencils, crayons, markers, pens, whatever you like to write and draw with, paper to take notes and draw pictures. Remember, this is going to come in handy later on in the week where we'll reference back to the previous videos. And your book, Animals 2 by 2, you can always reference back to. We did look at that yesterday in our first lesson of the week. So our vocabulary. Some vocabulary that will be helpful today is land snail. Land snails are snails that's its common name for a kind of mollusk. It's a term that's used for a gastropod with a coiled shell. Mollusk. Mollusks are invertebrates, meaning that they don't have a backbone. They have a soft body that holds the heart, the liver, the digestive system, and other important organs. Gastropod. Any of a large class of mollusks, such as snails and slugs, usually with a univalve shell or none, and a distinct head bearing sensory organs. Remember, we're going to be referencing back and looking more and more at this list as the week continues. Okay, so this week we are under an investigation of land and water snails. So we're going to be exploring those two different types of snails, and we're going to look individually at those types and then compare them together at the end of the week. While watching, I want you to draw and write the important information that you've learned. Write it down, draw a picture about it so that you can always reference it back. The land snail. There is a great diversity among snails many people are unaware of, because snails are not everybody's favorite animal. They're not what you would call lively, and they don't do tricks. They're not particularly popular with gardeners because they eat many types of plants. To make matters worse, snails leave their signature wherever they travel. You know, that familiar mucus trail. However, you can find them interesting and irresistible once you get over that bad image. Snails are mollusks, along with clams, oysters, slugs, squids, and octopus. Snails and slugs are in a class called gastropods, meaning belly foot. The muscular part of the snail on which it typically slides is the foot. And because it is where any upright animal might have its belly, it's easy to see why the name arose. Many gastropods have no shell, but the vast majority of them carry their home on their back, and usually the shell is coiled up. Coiling is a very efficient way to engineer an ever-expanding home, because the animal uses the outside of the previous turn of the shell as the wall of the new extension. As long as the snail continues to grow, it will continue to lay new shell material around the opening. The shell is always large enough to allow the snail to withdraw inside when a predator threatens or when the environment is harmful. Land snails. They have a head with a mouth and two pairs of tentacles. The larger pair is higher on the head, and each is tipped with a primitive eye. The eye cannot render an image for the snail, but it is sensitive to the light. The smaller pair of tentacles is directed earthward and serves to sense food and terrain. When the snail is threatened, it can withdraw its tentacles into the tissue of its head. And if it's further harassed, it can pull its head and foot completely inside its shell. I want you to go ahead and look at the picture and notice where the shell is, the anal pore, the mantle, the head, the eyes, the upper tentacles, the mouth, the lower tentacles, and the foot we discussed. Care for your snails. You need to keep land snails in a clear basin with damp paper towels in the bottom and the lid securely fixed over the top. Snails are very good at climbing out of containers. Have plenty of holes so the snails will get air. Check the paper towels daily and make sure that they remain damp. You can lay a sheet of plastic wrap loosely over the top of the lid to maintain that moisture level. If you want to see the reproductive process, then put the snails in a soiled filled terrarium. When snails lay eggs, they generally bury them in soil or lay them under leaves or pieces of wood. You might not see them. When the tiny snails emerge, move them to a separate terrarium so that the larger snails don't crush them. They need the same condition to survive as the adult snails. Land snails eat leafy green plants. The dark green outer leaves of lettuce and most grocery stores throw away are ideal for feeding your snails. Occasionally put some eggshell or clean white chalk in the terrarium for the snails to eat as a source of calcium for their strong shells. Lettuce is one of the snail's favorite foods and is a good source for a captive snail in the classroom. But they will eat a variety of plants. A snail eats by pressing its mouth against the intended meal and scraping the food material into bits with its specialized rasp-like tongue called a radula. As the sun approaches the sated snail's head for cover under the ledge and behind some leaves, it will settle down and seal itself with its mucus to some surface and wait for the sunset. Okay, so they like vegetation. Here you can see a picture of them actually eating a cucumber. So make sure that you're feeding your snails plenty of vegetation. Okay, stay tuned for tomorrow where we'll be back for lesson 3 and we're going to investigate water snails. So make sure that you're making those notes on the land snails and then we'll compare them tomorrow and later on in the week. Tomorrow's going to be a way more in depth on the water snails. So I hope to see you back soon. Thank you guys so much.